Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at Sir Giles Goosecap Night, attributed to George Chapman, performed first in 1602. We're fairly firm about that. We've actually have an account of someone going to see it on the 18th of September. It was a Saturday. It was raining. I've no idea if it was raining. And before the show, had an hour of music as well. So had a jolly good time. Was had by all. I don't know whether the accounts had enjoyed it or not. I just know that there is one. So we are going to finish this session with a slightly reduced numbers. We may have people popping in randomly and maybe even popping straight back out again. We'll see what technology allows for us. So we're a little understaffed for the climax where everybody turns up on stage at the same time. Oh well, never mind. So we'll see how this goes. Reading today, Tales and Doctor is
Alan, not from Canterbury.
Yes, that was a terrible joke from last time, which we're not revisiting. Reading Goosecap and Fowlweather is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm living in the northwestern United States.
Reading Penelope, Messenger, and a song at the end is...
Briony in Lincolnshire.
Reading Kingcob, Rudesby, and a servant is...
Francis Cox, coming at you from Amsterdam.
Reading Momford is...
Steve Longstaffe, coming at you from the northwest of England.
Reading Eugenia, Will, and Clarence is...
Aliki, Chapple, also in the northwest of England.
And reading Hippolyta and Jack is...
Sarah Blake, running away from you in Germany.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton, not going to continue that thought form. So yes, and so we may have additional readers popping in as we go. And without further ado, we're going from Act 4, Scene 3. We're going to complete Act 4, which we didn't last time. Previously on Sir Giles Goosecap, Clarence had sent Momford to woo on his behalf, and Momford did something along those lines, and presumably now we have the match feedback report thing going on here. For enter Clarence and Momford.
Oh, now, my friend, does not the knowing beams that through thy common sense glance through thy eyes to read that letter, though thine eyes retire and warm thy heart with a triumphant fire?
My lord, I feel a treble happiness mix in one soul, which proves how eminent things endless are above things temporal, that are in bodies needfully confined. I cannot suffer their dimensions pierced, where my immortal part admits expansure, even to the comprehension of two more commixed substantially with her mere self.
As how, my strange and riddle-speaking friend?
Thus, my lord, I feel my own mind's joy as it is separate from all other powers, and then the mixture of another soul joined in direction to one end, like it. And thirdly, the contentment I enjoy as we are joined, that I shall work that good in such a noble spirit as your niece, which in myself I feel for absolute. Each good mind doubles his own free content, when in another's use they give it vent.
Said like my friend, and that I may not wrong thy full perfections with an emptier grace than that which show presents to thy conceits, in working thee a wife worse than she seems, I'll tell thee plain a secret which I know. My niece doth use to paint herself with white, whose cheeks are naturally mixed with red, either because she thinks pale looks move most, or rather an answerable nice affect to other of her modest qualities, because she would not with the outward blaze of tempting beauty tangle wanton eyes, and so be troubled with their trumperies, which construe as thou wilt. I make it known that thy free comment may examine it, as willinger to tell truth of my niece than in the least degree to wrong my friend.
A jealous part of friendship you unfold, for was it ever seen that any dame would change of choice a well-mixed white and red for bloodless paleness, if she strived to move? Her painting then is to shun motion, but if she mended some defect with it, breeds it more hate than other ornaments which, to supply bare nature, ladies wear? An absurd thing it is to suppose, if nature made us either lame or sick, we would not seek for sound limbs or for health by art, the rector of confused nature. So, in a face, if nature be made lamer than art can make it, is it more offence to help her want there than in other limbs? Who can give instance where dames' faces lost the privilege of their other parts may boast?
But our most court-received poet says, painting is pure chastity's abater.
That was to make up a poor rhyme to nature, and far from any judgment it conferred. For likeness comes from hearts, and not from looks. And if in chastity possess the heart, not painting doth race it, nor, being clear, doth painting spot it. Omne bonum naturalier pulchrum. For outward fairness bears the divine form, and moves beholders to the act of love. And that which moves to love is to be wished, and each thing simply to be wished is good. So I conclude mere painting of the face a lawful and commendable grace.
What paradox dost thou defend in this? And yet, through thy clear arguments, I see thy speech is far exempt from flattery, and how illiterate custom grossly errs almost in all traditions she prefers. Since then, the doubt I put thee of my niece checks not thy doubtless love. Forth, my dear friend, to add force to these impressions that now have carved her fantasy with love, I've invited her to supper here, and told her thou art most extremely sick, which thou shalt counterfeit with all thy skill.
'Tis exceeding small to counterfeit.
Practice a little, love will teach it thee. And then shall Dr. Versey, the physician, come to thee while herself is in my house, with whom, as thou conferst of thy disease, I'll bring my niece, with all the lords and ladies within your hearing, under feigned pretext to show the pictures that hang near thy chamber. Now, where when thou hearest my voice, know she is there, and therefore speak that which may stir her thoughts, and make her fly into thy opened arms. Ladies whom true worth cannot move to ruth, true lovers must deceive to show their truth.
Apologies. Exeunt. End of act. Music plays. I was distracted there by the beauty of the poetry of the scene. So what happened in that scene? Aliki, then Alan, then Sarah.
Okay, so Clarence, Momford told Clarence that Eugenia paints her face to look pale, and he decided that makeup was cool. Never mind. And then Momford told him to pretend to be sick and somehow say something, oh gosh, I'm so ill, I keep thinking of Eugenia, or whatever, when she's about, because deception is also good.
Well,
Okay.
he did set up the whole sick thing last time, so he does need to tell Clarence to do that. Alan.
Yeah, I must admit, we were debating yesterday as to whether there was somebody specific being parodied. There's maybe a clue, because we got this bit in here, the interchange, that painting is pure chastity's abater. That was to make a poor rhyme to nature. And that has the feel of a direct quote from somebody else. And I wonder whether that's a clue as to who they were taking the Michael out of.
Possibly. I'd say there's nothing really solid enough in the text for that yet, but I don't know. Sarah, then Lynn.
Well, I'm loving the fact that we've actually got a bit of plot, but I'm actually loving the plot itself. It's like, what could possibly go wrong? Pretend to be ill, hide in a room. I'll bring her near you to look at some pictures, and then you can say stuff that she can overhear, and of course that will make her fly into your opened arms. It's like, he's really thought this through.
Well, maybe he's tried it before. I wouldn't pull it past Momford. You know, he's just gone through the back catalogue. Oh, yeah, this worked last time. It went well. Lynn, then Stephen.
My guess about the makeup thing is that this was actually it's kind of flattery of Queen Elizabeth, who is nearing the end of her life at this point and makes up heavily. And there was a debate about cosmetics in the culture of like whether that was good or bad, if it's deceptive, if it's if it's as this guy possibly quotes, it somehow co-varies with looseness. So it's like, no, makeup is lovely. Anything that gets people together, it's fine. Queen Elizabeth, we think that your makeup is great. It's fine. So that's my guess.
Yes, and from a September date, she's only got 6 months. I mean, they don't know that, but it's not that far off. Stephen.
Just to continue the makeup theme, I suppose. Firstly, I mean, it's often quite a misogynist trope. People do riff on the fact that women are false because they change their faces, blah, blah, blah. And that made me wonder whether this was actually a bit of a test from Momford for Clarence to, just to push him. Because we can all think of plays where, hot-headed young men on the slightest pretext sort of do a screeching 180 and go, though she is the love of my life, the fact that she's just picked up that tortoise shows that she's a whore, that kind of, or whatever random thing it is. Do you know what I mean? Screeching 180s. This is a screeching 180.
For the listener at home, just don't go back through our back catalogue looking for the tortoise. It is not there. But other examples are available. The characteristic way in which Clarence kind of, painfully thinks it through, whatever he is, he's not, the kind of person who the test might be designed to winkle out. So I was wondering whether that was going on too, as well as the other things that people have been saying. That, there's a bit of a Prospero. Oops, sorry. What is it with this play?
Yeah, there's a bit of a benevolent Southern gentleman who has a shovel and a shotgun in the back of his pickup about this, this idea of testing. But I mean, it's only a couple of lines, isn't it? But that was just a thought.
Aliki.
It also occurs to me whether it's to see how okay he is with deception, since he's about to tell him to pretend to be sick.
And he's really shit with that, isn't he? He's kind of deception. What? I can't deceive anybody. Just stand there on the mark and say your freaking lines.
Yeah. What's my motivation?
I can't lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So let us move into the final act then. We've had presumably a little mini musical interlude. And we're going to go into that coming up next. I don't think I can make the doubling work any other way, so I think I'm going to have to read Furnifall, because everybody's in this act. Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Momford, Furnifall, Tales, Kingcob, Rudesby, Goosecap, Fowlweather, Eugenia, Hippolyta, Penelope, Winifred.
Where is Sir Giles Goosecap here?
Here, my lord.
Come forward, knight. 'Tis you that the ladies admire at working, on my honour.
A little at once, my lord, for idleness' sake.
Sir Cuthbert, I say, to her, Captain.
Come, good servant, let's see what you work.
Why, look you, mistress, I am making a fine dry sea full of fish playing in the bottom, and here I'll let in the water so lively that you shall hear it roar.
Not hear it, Sir Giles.
Yes, in sooth, madam, with your eyes.
Aye, lady, but when a thing is done so exceedingly to the life as my knightly cousin does it, the eye oftentimes takes so strong a heed of it that it cannot contain it alone, and therefore the ear seems to take part with it.
That's a very good reason, my lord.
What a jest it is to hear how seriously he strives to make his foolish kinsman's answers wise ones.
What shall this be, servant?
This shall be a great whale, mistress, in all his bigness, sporting huge hills of salt water afore him, like a little water squirt. But you shall not need to fear him, mistress, for he shall be silk and gold. He shall do you no harm, and be he ne'er so lively.
Thank you, good servant.
Do not think, lady, but he had need to tell you this aforehand, for my honour, he brought me the monster Caucasus so lively that at first sight I started at it.
The monster Caucasus, my lord! Caucasus is a mountain. Cacus, you mean?
Cacus indeed, my lord, cry you mercy.
Here I'll take out your eyes, and you will, mistress.
No, by my faith, servant, 'tis better in.
Why, lady, I'll but take it out in jest, in earnest.
No, something else there, good servant.
Why then, here shall be a camel, and he shall have horns, and he shall look for all the world like a maid without a husband.
Oh, bitter, Sir Giles.
Nay, he has a dry wit, lady, I can tell ye.
He bobbed me there, indeed, my lord.
Marry him, sweet lady, to answer his bitter bob.
So she may answer him with horns indeed.
See what a pretty work he wears on his boot hose.
Did you work them yourself, Sir Giles, or buy them?
Oh, I bought them for nothing, madam, in exchange.
Bought them for nothing.
Indeed, madam, in the exchange they so honour him for his work, they would take nothing for anything he buys on 'em. But where's the rich nightcap you wrought, cousin? It had been not too little for you. It's the best piece of work that e'er I saw.
Why, my lord, 'twas big enough when I wrought it, for I wore pantoufles, probably pantoufles then, you know.
Indeed, the warmer a man keeps his feet, the less he needs wear upon his head.
You speak for your kinsman the best that ever I heard, my lord.
But I believe, madam, my lord cousin had not told you all my good parts.
I told him so, I warrant you, cousin.
What do you think he left out, Sir Giles?
Well, marry, madam, I can take tobacco now. I have brought glowworms to kindle it withal, better than all the burning glasses in the world.
Glowworms, Sir Giles. Will they make it burn?
Oh, good madam, I feed them with nothing but fire a purpose. I'll be sworn they can eat me 5 faggots a week in charcoal.
Nay, he has the strangest devices, ladies. There you heard, I warrant ye.
That's a strange device indeed, my lord.
But your sewing, Sir Giles, is most gentlewoman-like quality, I assure you.
Oh, far away for now, servant. You need never marry. You are both husband and wife yourself.
Nay, indeed, mistress, I would fain marry for all that, and I'll tell you my reason, if you will.
Let's hear it, good servant.
Why, madam, we have a great match at football towards, married men against bachelors, and the married men be all my friends. So I would fain marry to take the married men's parts, in truth.
The best reason for marriage that ever I heard, Sir Giles.
I pray, will you keep my work a little, mistress? Must needs strain a little courtesy, in truth.
And exit Sir Giles Goosecap.
God's my life, I thought he was a little to blame.
Come, come, you hear not me, dame.
Well said, Sir Cuthbert. To her now she shall hear fresh courting.
Alas, Sir Cuthbert, you are not worth the hearing. Everybody says you cannot love, howsoever you talk on it.
Not love, Dame. Slid, what argument wouldst have of my love trow? Let me look as red as scarlet afore I see thee. And when thou comest in sight, if the sun of thy beauty do not white me like a shepherd's holland, I am a Jew to my Creator.
Oh, excellent.
Let me burst like a toad, if a frown of thy brow has not turned the very heart in my belly, and made me ready to be hanged by the heels for a fortnight, to bring it to the right again.
You should have hanged longer, Sir Cuthbert. 'Tis not right yet.
Zounds, bid me cut off the best limb of my body for thy love, and I'll lay it in thy hand to prove it. Dost think I am no Christian? Have I not a soul to save?
Yes, 'tis to save yet, I warrant it. And will be while 'tis a soul if you use this.
Excellent courtship of all hands. Not only my captain's courtship is not heard yet. Good madam, give him favour to court you with his voice.
What should he court me with all else, my lord?
I hope, madam, there be other things to court ladies withal besides voices.
I mean with an audible sweet song, madam.
With all my heart, my lord, if I shall be so much indebted to him.
Oh, nay, I will be indebted to your ears, lady, for hearing me sound music.
Well done. Captain, prove as it will now. We'll pause there before we complete the scene, because I think there's a lot to unpack here. We've sort of reached, shall we say, something of a resolution of the Sir Giles sewing bee question of the beginning of an earlier sequence of how do we play? What's going on with this sewing thing? It does seem that indeed Goosecap is a sewer, and is now the question here is it any good? Is that a visual gag of it's this terrible thing that is just full of things, or is the gag, as we were worried about last time? I think Lynn was most on this point of, and I think others made this point as well, that this is drawing on the sort of misogynistic side actually of things that he's being and other issues as well of he's a bit womanish because he does sewing kind of stuff. So yeah, question of what the joke is resolves itself into various different directions. Not so fun, but could still be played, I think, with if it is just this most horrific of, I don't know what the scene is in terms of how you actually make it. But anyway, Lynn.
I'm not sure it's absolutely established that he does this himself. He may have samples of very skillful embroidery, like I did this, yeah, right, and then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but I don't think we necessarily know that he's telling the truth about that. So he might still be faking being a skilled craftsperson.
Yes, that someone's literally handing it behind his back and he goes, "Yeah, look, this is my thing." Francis.
Yeah, at this point, Giles reminds me of the character of Georgie Pilson in the Lucia novels, because he was slightly effeminate and was always doing needlepoint. So you could actually play him Sir Giles that way.
I mean, and he's got these inventions. These glowworms that you feed 5 faggots a week. I mean, is he a screwball inventor? And he has actually got this thing. There's a furnace in the back, feeding glowworm. I mean, I there's part of me that quite likes the fantastical nature of that, but or is he just a fantasist? I mean, is it actually worse than that? Is Goosecap is trying to improvise what Tales has told about him, and he's just been told, "I'm doing what now?" Which could also be quite funny. It's just like he's just having to bluff all this stuff. Lynn, then Sarah.
So I was sort of in contrast to Francis's vision of this character. Many decades ago, there was an American football player who was sort of his hobby was needlepoint, and it was sort of hilarious because he's this enormous 200-pound linebacker or something. And he's like, "Yeah, I do that to relax." Sort of joke, like Rosie Greer. Nobody remembers Roosevelt Greer. Okay, never mind. So this was really, really funny in the 70s in the US, because it's like you could just cast him as this linebacker who's kind of sweet-tempered but not very smart. And he does needlepoint.
Sarah.
Yeah, I would just love to think that he's actually like an ace embroiderer and he's really good at all this stuff. And he does actually have a furnace out the back and he is doing stuff with glowworms. It would just, because he's as far as any of these people have characters, like he seems to have just been quite endearing so far. And I would just love it if he just turned out to be ace at all this stuff and got the bride and like just wowed her with the fact that he's just, yes, damn it, I can do needlepoint, and I am an ace sewer, and I do all, and I have glowworms, and I have lanterns, and I have, and he actually just and he's actually just really, really good at all this stuff, because then that would totally pull the rug out from under the whole slightly, misogynistic, homophobic tang that this plot device could otherwise have.
Yes. Also, but I mean, it's also the fact that tales is, tales are potentially not very true. I have to say, Momford's put down is the Caucasus. It's just that bit is a wonderful moment actually, because it just sort of undermines all of that. And it's that sort of question. In terms of contracting some of this business and making this a tighter play, in terms of we got sort of quite a few characters who don't really do very much. There's almost part of me saying, actually, you could almost dump both Tales and Kingcob, and maybe actually Goosecap doesn't go on so much of a journey, and actually he tells them these things himself, and that earlier scene could actually be him, because I don't think it's inconsistent with his character, because his character does seem to fluctuate scene by scene. So I'm wondering whether there's a reworking of the structure of this as to when things happen. Because, of course, as nothing really happens, I don't think it necessarily matters when things happen. I'm thinking about that on a structural problem, that the play doesn't have a climax for an interval, and that worries me. There's nowhere at the moment. So we might have to construct that by moving some scenes around to make it flow in a slightly different way. Or it, is heavily cut down and it's 90 minutes without an interval, which is not my favourite working fashion, but... I need decent lumber support as well, if you're going to do it like that. The seats have got to be comfy in that theatre if you're going to do a straight through thing. Don't just wooden benches and it's going to be 2 hours. There's no interval. Why? What's wrong with you? Sorry. This separate issue.
Sadistic.
That's just my separate problem. Hello to Lois, who's managed to get into the room. Welcome.
Oh boy, it took ages.
So Lois, you will take it off my hands, Furnifall, and you will and Bullaker as well. That was going to be redistributed, but you maintain it, as it were.
Right.
Alan.
I'm just wondering actually whether the interval has happened before the players we've got it starts, because we've got the reference to this hour-long musical entertainment that preceded it. So I'm just wondering whether they did the music, then had a decent length interval, and then the whole of this lot in Orwana.
Well, in the sense the convention is for this kind of thing that they'll be trimming there'll be a bit of a music interval between each of the acts, but they're not necessarily very long breaks. I mean, they're not intervals as necessarily we know them. We don't know for certain precisely how that actually works, but we do. There definitely has to be at least one interval that is of a reasonable depth, because Clarence exits and comes straight back on again otherwise. And you have that with several plays of the period where the interval is an interval in between acts, but how long it is, TBA. Stephen.
I was just thinking about the scene we've just done. Is you've got a whole bunch of idiots and a whole bunch of people who aren't idiots, and there's a sort of a fair bit of fun just from reactions, I think, for the audience. That we were talking yesterday about, there's been such a build-up. Come on, this better had kind of be entertaining, and I just think theatrically, one of the things that's happening here is that, you've got so much fun to be had with these fools, and some of it is there in the lines, but a lot of it is, they're just kind of being put in their place very publicly, and the audience can be sharing in that. because, they're still being outrageously stupid.
Also, just a note, Tales does deliver, I think, our earliest trigger warning. Because it's like Goosecap says, "Look at this scary scene." It's like, he should have warned you before he showed that, because he showed me this thing the other day. It was really scary. So I think this is our earliest trigger warning in early modern drama. So well done, Tales, for that. Okay, we are still mid-scene, so let's finish the scene. There isn't actually that much scene left, but it's a slight change of direction. So enter Messenger.
My lord, Dr. Versey, the physician, is come to see Master Clarence.
Light and attend to him presently.
To Master Clarence? What, is your friend sick?
Exceeding sick.
I'm exceeding sorry.
Never was sorrow worthier bestowed than for the ill state of so good a man.
Alas, poor gentleman. Good my lord, let's see him.
Oh, thanks, gentle lady, but my friend is loath to trouble ladies, since he cannot quit them with anything he hath that they respect.
Respect, my lord? I would hold such a man in more respect than any emperor, for he could make me empress of myself, and in mine own rule comprehend the world.
Now, young dame, suddenly inspired, the speech hath silver hairs and reverence asks. Sooner shall have duty done of me than any pomp in temporal empery.
Good madam, get my lord to let us greet him.
Alas, we shall but wrong and trouble him. His contemplations greet him with most welcome.
I never knew a man of so sweet a temper, so soft and humble, of so high a spirit.
Alas, my noble lord, he is not rich, nor titles hath, nor in his tender cheeks the standing lake of impudence corrupts. Naught in all the world, nor naught would have to grace him in the prostituted light. But if a man would consort with a soul where all man's sea of gall and bitterness is quite evaporate with her holy flames, and whose powers of dove-like innocence fosters her own deserts, and life and death runs hand in hand before them, all the skies clear and transparent to her piercing eyes, then would my friend be something. But till then, cipher, nothing, the worst of men.
Sweet lord, let's go visit him.
But they are distracted by a very similarly voiced Enter Goosecap.
Pray, good my lord, what is it you talk on?
Are you come from your necessary business, Sir Giles? We talk of the visiting of my sick friend, Clarence.
Oh, good my lord, let's visit him, 'cause I know his brother.
Know his brother? Nay, then, Count, do not deny him.
Pray, my lord, whether was eldest he or his brother?
Oh, the younger brother eldest, while you lived, Sir Giles.
I say so still, my lord, but I am so borne down with truth as never any knight in the world was, I think.
A man would think he speaks simply now. But indeed it isn't the will of the parents to make which child they will, youngest or eldest. For often we see the youngest inherit, wherein he is eldest.
Your logical wit, my lord, is able to make anything good.
Well, come, sweet lords and ladies, let us spend the time till supper time with some such sights as my poor house is furnished with all, pictures, jewels, of which implements it may be I have some will please you much.
Sweet lord, let's see them.
And off they go. To Momford's. Yes, we're going to the party that we've been promised in various shapes and forms for the entire play. Finally, everyone's going to get together for a proper party. Isn't that nice? Alan?
I'm just wondering whether Fowlweather should actually mop his brow at the entrance of the messenger, because it saved him from doing a song, which I'm not sure he was actually that up for.
This is true. I think that's a fair point. So yeah, Clarence is sick, exceeding sick. Everyone's exceeding sorry. Briony.
Just what was that whole exchange about the elder brother thing? That was weirdly explanatory and seemed out of place.
I think they've been at the mushrooms.
Well, he's just being an idiot. He says, so I know his brother. Which one's the eldest, him or his elder brother?
But then Tales explains afterwards that the youngest can be the eldest because the parents can decide to give them, like, it was just, what was that?
Is it because Tales is forever doing this kind of spin doctor job? You know, going, what the Prime Minister meant to say. I don't know. I mean, he did that earlier on somewhere, I think, Tales did it. Was it Tales who did that?
Yeah, he does it all the time. It's the running gag, actually.
Yeah. I think there is this thing that there are reasonably distinct gags for each character, but it's not always very clear as in this reading that it's something that could be developed. But it is one of these slightly goofy gags that does come out of nowhere. And the problem with this play is we keep thinking, oh, is that a plot point? And it's not. Or I don't think it is. It's not setting anything up. I think it's just another gag, and yeah, but it is quite confusing that way. Because we keep scrabbling, hoping to grab a plot point, and then there isn't one. Lois.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody may have mentioned this before, but the necessary business on which Sir Giles left everybody, I think, is heading for the loo, isn't it? I mean, did you already discuss this? That's
no. We did not. Please.
It's quite unusual in drama.
Yeah, have we had anyone dashing off for it? Well, apart from Hodge in Gamma Gurton's Needle, but he does technically he defecates in his pants while on stage and then runs off to change. But have we had anyone else leave to go for a wee? No, I don't think we have. Maybe this is the first.
Odd because the other thing that happens in the play is that before Eugenia makes her entrance, Momford, there's this joke about how you'd burst in on her even if she was at the urinal. I mean, really, it's extraordinary to have this amount. It's probably partly the boys' play quality of it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go a little. Oh, Aliki, were you waving there? Or?
I was just going to say there's another nice little bit of potential business with Goosecap spending the entire first part of the scene dancing in place and trying to sidle out to go to the loo and coming back and saying, oh yes, that's going to be embroidered like that.
There is a fine dry sea. The sound of water. No. Anyway, okay, Act 5, Scene 2. Enter Clarence and Doctor.
I think your disease, sir, be rather of the mind than the body.
They're diseases of the mind, Doctor.
No question, sir, even as there be of the body.
And cures for them, too?
And cures for them, too, but not by physic.
You will have their diseases griefs, will you not?
Yes, oftentimes.
And do not griefs ever rise out of passions?
Evermore.
And do not passions proceed from corporal distempers?
Not the passions of the mind, for the mind many times is sick when the body is healthful.
But is not the mind's sickness of power to make the body sick?
In time, certain.
And the body's ill affections able to infect the mind?
No question.
Then if there be such a natural commerce of powers betwixt them, that the ill estate of the one offends the other, why should not the medicines for one cure the other?
Yet it will not, you see. E mihi quo nollis amor et mediculus herbis.
Nay then, Doctor, since you cannot make any reasonable connection of these two contrarieties, the mind and the body, making both subject to passion, wherein you can find the substances of both, I must tell you there is no disease of the mind but one, and that is ignorance.
Why, what is love? Is that not a disease of the mind?
Nothing so, for it springs naturally out of the blood. nor are we subject to any disease or sorrow, whose causes or effects simply and natively concern the body, that the mind by any means partaketh. Nor are there any passions in the soul, for where there are no affections, there are no passions. And affectus, your master Galen, refers parti irascenti, for illic est anima sentiens ui sunt affectus, therefore the rational soul cannot be there also.
But you know, we used to say, my mind gives me this or that, even in those addictions that concern the body.
We used to say so, indeed, and from that use comes the abuse of all knowledge and her practice, for when the object in question only concerns the state of the body, why should the soul be sorry or glad for it? If she willingly mix herself, then she is a fool. If of necessity and against her will, a slave. And so, far from that reason and freedom that the Empress of Reason and an internal substance should comprehend.
Divinely spoken, sir, but very paradoxically.
I want to briefly pause there, because it is a sort of little unit of debate, isn't it? And again, seems to be what Clarence does, isn't he? He has a little debate with someone, usually Momford, and this time with a doctor. And Doctor doesn't seem to be doing much practical doctoring. I mean, I don't know whether he's sort of doing, and every so often goes and breathe, and breathe out, and
Turn your head and cough.
around the chest or anything while he's doing this. I mean, again, it feels like there's potential for business to do with this. It's Lois.
Yeah, this is probably the only bit of Clarence that people would actually find interesting nowadays. I mean, the question of whether there is a medicine of the body that would deal with the mind or vice versa. I mean, that's actually something which is still debated and quite interesting. At least one of those Latin phrases was, I think, it's too bad that there is no medicine for love.
It does feel like Clarence is living in a slightly different universe to the rest of the play. I mean, it does feel like we've stepped into an episode of In Our Time, rather than anything else. That may not translate for anyone outside the UK, but if Malvern Bragg turns up at any second, I would not be surprised. Anyway, I think we'll move on because people are going to now join Clarence and the Doctor. In fact, many people, they're entering probably from above to view, if not necessarily partake. We have entrance of Momford, Tales, Kingcob, Furnifall, Rudesby, Goosecap, Fowlweather, Eugenia, Penelope, Hippolyta, Winifred, still not speaking, and a servant.
Who's that?
I, my lord.
Bring hither the key of the gallery. I thought I heard the doctor and my friend.
I did so, sure.
Peace then, a while, my lord. We'll be bold to eavesdrop, for I know my friend is as respective in his chamber and by himself of anything he does as in a critic's synod's curious eyes, following therein Pythagoras' golden rule, maxifier omnium te ipsum reverere.
Know you the Countess Eugenia, sir?
Exceeding well, sir. She's a good learned scholar.
Then I perceive you know her well, indeed.
Methinks you two should use much conference.
Alas, sir, we do very seldom meet, for her estate and mine are so unequal, and then her knowledge passeth mine so far that I hold much too sacred a respect of her high virtues to let mine attend them.
Pardon me, sir, but this humbleness cannot flow out of your judgment, but from passion.
Indeed, I do account that passion the very high perfection of my mind that is excited by her excellence, and therefore willingly and gladly feel it. For what was spoken of the most chaste queen of rich Fasiaca might be said of her, moribus ante venit sortem virti us annos sexum animo morum nihilitate genus.
A most excellent distich.
Come, lords, away. Let's not presume too much of a good nature. Not for all I have would I have him take knowledge of the wrong I rudely offer him. Come then, I'll show a few rare jewels to your honoured eyes, and then present you with a common supper.
Jewels, my lord? Why, is not this candlestick one of your jewels, pray?
Yes, marry, is it, Sir Giles, if you will?
'Tis a most fine candlestick. In truth, it wants nothing but the languages.
The languages, servant? Why the languages?
Why, mistress, there is a Latin candlestick hereafore, and that had the languages, I am sure.
I thought he had reason for it, lady.
Aye, and a reason of the sun too, my lord, for his father would have been ashamed on it.
And exeunt Momford and everybody else.
Well, Master Clarence, I perceive your mind hath so incorporated itself with flesh, and therein rarefied that flesh to spirit, that you had need of no physician's help. Good sir, even for holy virtue's health, and grace of perfect knowledge do not make those groundworks of eternity you lay, means to your ruin and short being here. For the too strict and rational course you hold will eat your body up, and then the world, for that small point of it where virtue lives, will suffer diminution. It is now brought almost to a simple unity, which is, as you well know, simplicior puncto. And if that point fall once, why then, alas, the unity must only be supposed. Let it not fail, then most men else have sold it. Though you neglect yourself, uphold it. So, with my reverend love, I leave you, sir.
Exit Doctor.
Thanks, worthy doctor, I do amply quite you. I prop poor virtue that am propped myself, and only by one friend in all the world. For virtue's only sake I use this while, which otherwise I would despise and scorn. The world should sink in all the pomp she hugs close in her heart, in her ambitious gripe, ere I sustain it. This slenderest joint, moved with the worth that worldlings love so well, had power to save it from the throat of hell.
He draws the curtains and sits within them. Yeah, I've definitely my Goosecap is just increasingly turning into Dougal, isn't he? I mean, it's pure Father Ted territory. He's just going, he's just randomly holding up a candle. Saying, "Is this one of your jewels?" And Momford's response is just, "Yeah, if you want." I mean, Momford's just clearly just lost the will with this guy who's just constantly wandering around saying, "Is this a thing?" No, and it's a setup for a terrible gag about Latin candlesticks. Lois, and then...
Yeah, well, Latin is some kind of metal. I'm not sure what kind even, but that's the point of the awful pun. And I suppose it's a silver candlestick. I mean, it could be sufficiently fancy for Momford to count it as a jewel in the sense of a valuable possession.
Lynn.
Latin is brass.
Brass.
Ah. It's not a pun I think is going to land today.
No. If Lois doesn't know that, like, no one, it's just like, yeah. Zero people in the audience are gonna.
Yeah.
Zero.
But you can see we figured out the level of this humour, really, haven't we? It is subtle as a brick. I mean, it's on the Canterbury Tales level of comedy gags here. So in terms of if we want to substitute some of the gags for more modern examples, that's the level we're aiming at for Goosecap, which is good to know. Alan, were you waving earlier?
No, it was just going to highlight the terrible pun again. The further we go, the more I'm thinking not 13-year-olds, but 10-year-olds.
But it's this thing. You've got this little scene still going on between Momford and Clarence and the Doctor, and Momford then brings in literally everybody on, and it's sort of like this coach tour to view Clarence. I mean, it's only a few people speak, so maybe some of them are more inferred than actual. I mean, because almost none of them speak, but yeah. Interesting. Anyway, that's given them enough time to get round for their entrance. As we continue the scene, he's drawn the curtains and he's sat within them. Enter Eugenia, Penelope, and Hippolyta.
Come, fair ladies, I must make you both familiar witnesses of the most strange part, and full of impudence, that e'er I played.
What's that, good madam?
I, that have been so more than maiden nice to my dear lord and uncle, not to yield by his importunate suit to his friend's love, in look or almost thought, will of myself far past his expectation or his hope, in action and in person, greet his friend and comfort the poor gentleman's sick state.
Is this a part of so much impudence?
No, but I fear me it will stretch to more.
Marry, madam, the more the merrier.
Marry, madam? What, should I marry him?
You take the word, methinks, as though you would. And if there be a thought of such kind heat in your cold bosom, would to God my breath might blow it to the flame of your kind heart.
God's precious lady, know ye what you say? Respect you what I am, and what he is, what the whole world would say, and what great lords I have refused, and might yet embrace, and speak you like a friend to wish me him.
Madam, I cast all this, and know your choice can cast it quite out of the crystal doors of your judicial eyes. I am but young, and, be it said, without all pride I take to be a maid, I am one. And indeed, yet in my mother's womb, to all the wiles weaved in the looms of greatness and of state, and yet, even by that little I have learned out of continual conference with you, I have cried harvest home of thus much judgment in my green sowing time, that I could place the constant sweetness of good Clarence's mind filled with his inward wealth and nobleness. Look, madam, here, when others' outward trash should be contented to come under here.
And so say I, upon my maidenhead.
'Tis well said, ladies. Thus we differ then, I to the truth-wise, you to worldly men. And now, sweet dames, observe an excellent jest, at least in my poor jesting. The Earl, my uncle, will miss me straight, and I know his close drift is to make me and his friend Clarence meet by some device or other he hath plotted. Now, when he seeks us round about his house and cannot find us, for we may be sure he will not seek in his sick friend's chamber, I have at all times made his love so strange, he straight will think I went away displeased or heartily careless of his heartiest suit, and then I know there is no grief on earth will touch his heart so much, which I will suffer to quite his late good pleasure wrought on me, for I'll be sworn, in motion and in progress of his friend's suit, I never in my life wrestled so much with passion, or was moved to take his firm love in such jealous part.
This is most excellent, madam, and will prove a niece-like and a noble friend's revenge.
Bold in a good cause, then. Let's greet his friend.
Drawing the curtains and disclosing Clarence, who will briefly be voiced by me.
Where is this sickly gentleman? At his book. Now, in good truth, I would these books were burned that wrap men from their friends before their time. How does my uncle's friend? No other name I need give him to whom I give myself.
Oh, madam, let me rise that I may kneel and pay some duty to your sovereign grace.
Good Clarence.
Oh, sorry.
Good Clarence, do not work yourself disease. My lady comes to ease and comfort you.
And we are handmaids to her to that end.
Ladies, my heart will break if it be held within the verge of this presumptuous chair.
Why, Clarence, is your judgment bent to show a common lover's passion? Let the world that lives without a heart, and is but show, stand on her empty and empoisoned form. I know thy kindness, and have seen thy heart cleft in my uncle's free and kindly lips, and I am only now to speak and act the rites due to thy love. Oh, I could weep a bitter show of tears for thy sick state. I could give passion all her blackest rites, and make 1,000 vows to thy deserts, but these are common. Knowledge is the bond, the seal and crown of our united minds, and that is rare and constant, and for that, to my late written hand, I give thee this. See, heaven, the soul thou gavest is in this hand. This is the knot of our eternity, which fortune, death, nor hell shall ever loose.
She draws the curtains, concealing Clarence herself and her attendants. Enter. Actually, no, we'll pause before they enter. So yeah, the trap is sprung. Yeah, I mean, wow, that was a trick. That was a cunning ruse. I mean, he just thought, "Oh, I'm a bit sick." You've seen me disputing with a scholar. I mean, to be fair, it does seem that they're quite well matched to each other in the sense that they're constantly on about learning and stuff, and so it does seem like that. And she makes the point. We're sort of held together by our love of knowledge, and that seems fine. Just why all this? Why do we need any of this to get to this point? What's it for? Lynn.
Well, why do we ever need that in comedy? I mean, this is basically the structure of new comedy. Although new comedy, usually the blocking force is exterior. It's a parent or something like that, or it's social convention. But in the early modern period, often the impediment to love is internal. It's something to do with the temperament or the mindset of one of the lovers. So, I mean, and then complications ensue, and then they get together in the end. That's, why any of this is like, because that's the structure of comedy.
Yeah, but in a sense, all they needed to do is just be in the same room at some point. I mean, it's such an elaborate setup for them just to actually meet and talk to each other. And how much dialogue do they say to each other? Clarence says 4 lines, and that's enough. And they're not even actually about her. Beyond, I should get up, shouldn't I? It's polite for me to get up. I'm ill.
Well, I would play it that Eugenia is interested in Clarence the whole time. She's just playing hard to get because that's what you do.
I mean, she tells us she is.
Yeah, and yeah, some of the scenes are a bit ambiguous, but it does seem that the play doesn't function if that isn't, because there's nothing here that says fall in love with this guy. Nothing in the play seems to have said that. Beyond, we're a decent match, aren't we? We're quite like each other. That's a good plan, Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I think even now it's ambiguous. I mean, she talks as if she's just doing this to play a trick on her uncle, who thinks he's playing a trick on her. Ha ha, won't it be funny? He'd never dreamed that I'm doing exactly what he wanted me to do. But there's still the possibility that she's going to reveal, oh, I was just pretending to be in love with you. Actually, it was just a joke. I mean, I think, because we all know that women are wavering and inconstant and changeable. So, she's just giving this great example of it.
Unless she's actually a Vulcan and needs a logical reason for them getting together. I mean, I don't see Clarence being Kirk or anything, but it's not quite going to work that way. Aliki, then, Sarah.
We have spent the entire rest of the play showing some spectacularly silly men. So maybe she's looked around and thought, yeah, all right, he'll do.
Helping being relative, I guess.
Sarah.
If she needs a logical reason, she's in the wrong play.
Okay, let's dig to the end of this because we're nearly there. So she's drawn the curtains concealing Clarence herself and, as I say, disappointingly her attendants too. Enter Bullaker, Jack and Will, who we entered the play with.
What an unmannerly trick is this of thy countess, to give the noble count her uncle the slip thus?
Unmannerly, you villain! Oh, that I were worthy to wear a dagger to any purpose for thy sake.
Aye, young gentleman, I'll tell your anger with your fists.
That cannot be, man, for all fists are shut, and utter nothing. Besides, I do not think my quarrel just for my lady's protection in this cause, for I protest she does most abominably miscarry herself.
Protest, you saucy Jack, you! I should do my country and courtship good service to beat thy colt's teeth out of thy head for suffering such a reverend word to pass their guard. Why, the oldest courtier in the world, man, can do no more than protest.
Indeed, page, if you were in France, you would be broken upon the wheel for it. There is not the best duke's son in France dare say, I protest, till he be 31 years old at least, for the inheritance of that word is not to be possessed before.
Well, I am sorry for my presumption, then. sorry for my ladies, most sorry for thee, good Lord Momford, that will make us most of all sorry for ourselves if we do not find her out.
Why, alas, what should we do? All the stars out of our heaven see we seek her as fast as we can. If she be crept into a rush, we will seek her out or burn her.
Enter Momford.
Villains, where are your ladies? Seek them out. Oh, hence home, you monsters. Still keep you there, where levity keeps in her inconstant sphere.
Exeunt pages.
Now, where, you precious villains? What a plague of varied tortures is a woman's heart. How like a peacock's tail. Different lights, they differ from themselves. The very air alters the aspen humours of their bloods. Now, excellent good. Now, super excellent bad. Some excellent good. Some, but one of all. Would any ignorant baby serve her friend with such an uncivil part? Blood. What is learning? An artificial cobweb to catch flies and nourish spiders. Could she cut my throat with her departure, I'd been a carver made a dish at supper for my guests of her kind charge. I'm beholding to her. Is there not a feather in this air, a man-made challenge for her? What? A feather so easy to be seen, so apt to trace in the weak flight of her unconstant wings. A mote, man, with the most that with the sun is only seen, yet with his radiant eye we cannot single so from other motes. To say, this mote is she. Passion of death, she wrongs me past her death. Come, my friend, is mine, she not her own. There's an end.
Eugenia draws the curtains, disclosing Clarence, herself, and her attendants.
Come, uncle, shall we go to supper now?
Zounds, to supper? What a dot is this?
Alas, what ails my uncle? Ladies, see.
Is not your lordship well?
Good. Speak, my lord.
Sweet plague on you, all ye witty rogues. Have ye no pity in your villainous jest, but run a man quite from his 15 wits?
Will not your lordship see your friend and niece?
Well, I might sink if I shame not to see her. Touched as a passion of pure jealousy, I'll make her now amends with adoration. Goddess of learning and of constancy, of friendship and every other virtue.
Come, you have abused me now, I know, and now you plaster me with flatteries.
My lord, the contract is knit fast betwixt them.
Now all heaven's choir of angels sing Amen, and bless these true-born nuptials with their bliss. Niece, though you have cozened me in this, I'll uncle you yet in another thing, and quite deceive your expectation. Where you think you've contracted hearts with a poor gentleman, he is sole heir to all my earldom, which to you and yours I freely and forever here bequeath. Call forth the lords, sweet ladies, let them see this sudden and most welcome novelty. Oh, cry your mercy, niece. I mean, perhaps your modesty would not have them partake this sudden match.
Oh, uncle, think you so? I hope I made my choice with too much judgment to take shame of any form I shall perform it with.
Said like my niece, and worthy of my friend.
We'll just pause there. As literally we're just talking about the the trope of wayward women, and Momford immediately comes on and does exactly that. And of course she's behind the curtain, so she hears. So you see, they've got him by overhearing him saying stuff, and the pages come on and do some vamping to cover up whatever needed covering up there. And just to reiterate, they're looking for stuff. I think there's a visual gag potentially here with Penelope. My lord, the contract is knit fast betwixt them, and his face is just covered in kisses, the lipstick mark and things like that. What they've been doing behind the curtain. This is why I was a bit disappointed that the ladies in waiting were with, her ladies were with her. I was hoping they were more alone. But hey, it's fine. Lois.
I think this is a contract per verba de presenti, like the one in The Duchess of Malfi. The two women are acting as witnesses, and they probably take each other's hands or something.
Yeah, my one's more fun. No, I totally agree, and all of the stuff, and hell, they've got the paperwork from earlier, so there's no reason. I wouldn't pull it past Eugenia if she's actually got printed out her own contract, and just this is all very logical, my lord. So again, it's not as tricks go, allowing Monmouth to say some words that are a bit awkward.
You've got me. Have all my money.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing. We got that thing of, at the beginning, Clarence was saying, "I'm a poor man from a poor family." So not anymore. Not anymore. Lynn.
Well, I'm assuming what's implied there is that Monmouth, as goofy as he has seemed to be, he would like to see this match between his very good friend and his niece. But he wants her to love him. So he doesn't want to sweeten the pot with his fortune until the contract is made.
Oh yes, there is that test element from the beginning. Is that and perhaps it would be nice if he told us that at the top of the play, because then it would feel like there was an impetus to follow what's going on. It's like it's got all of the stuff, but it's not quite doing the stuff in the way that the stuff sort of normally has. Let's finish the play, shall we? Shall we finish the play? Let's finish the play. They've said that all the other people should come on, and indeed here they do. Enter Furnifall, Tails, Kingcob, Goosecap, Rudesby, Fowlweather, Jack, Will, Bullaker.
My lords, take witness of an absolute wonder. A marriage made for virtue, only virtue. My friend and my dear niece are man and wife.
A wonder of my honor, and withal a worthy precedent for all the world. Heaven bless you for it, lady, and your choice.
Thanks, my good lord.
An accident that will make Policy blush. And all the compliments of wealth and state in the successful and unnumbered race that shall flow from it, filled with fame and grace.
So may it speed, Countess, worthy Clarence.
Thanks, good Sir Clement.
Captain, be not dismayed. I'll marry thee, for while we live, thou shalt my consort be.
High France, my lord, I am not grieved a whit. Since Clarence hath her, he hath been in France, and therefore merits her if she were better.
Then, knights, I'll knit your happy nuptial knots. I know the ladies' minds better than you. Though my rare niece has chose for virtue only, yet some, more wise than some, they choose for both virtue and wealth.
Hey, uncle, then I plead this goes with my choice, some more wise than some. For only virtue's choice is truest wisdom.
Well, take wealth and virtue, both amongst you then. They love ye, knights, extremely, and, Sir Cuthbert, I give the chaste Hippolyta to you. Sir Giles, this lady...
Nay, stay there, my lord. I have not yet proved all his knightly parts. I hear he is an excellent poet too.
That I forgot, sweet lady. Good Sir Giles, have you no sonnet of your pen about ye?
Yeah, yes, that I hope, my lord, my cousin.
Oh, why, this is passing fit.
I'd be loath to go without paper about me against my mistress. Hold my work again. A man knows not what need he shall have, perhaps.
Well remembered, on my honour, Sir Giles.
Pray, read, my lord. I made this sonnet of my mistress.
Nay, read thyself, man.
No, in truth, Sir Cuthbert, I cannot read mine own hand.
Well, I'll read it. 3 things there be, which thou shouldst only crave, thou Pomeroy or apple of mine eye. 3 things there be, which thou shouldst long to have, and for which 3 each modest dame would cry. 3 things there be, that should thine anger swage, an English mastiff, and a fine French page.
Sblood's ass, there's but 2 things. Thou shamest thyself.
Why, Sir Cuthbert, that's poetica licentia. The verse would have been too long, and I had put it in the third. Slight, you are no poet, I perceive.
'Tis excellent, servant.
Keep it, lady.
No, sorry, I'm an idiot.
Keep it, lady, then. Take the only knight of mortal men.
Oh, thank you, good my lord, as much as though you had given me 20 shillings in truth. Now I may take the married man's part in football.
All comforts crown you all, and you, captain, for merry form's sake, let the willow crown. Wreath of willow, bring us straight.
Oh, not for a world should that have been forgot. Captain, it is the fashion. Take this crown.
Am I Fowlweather?
Unless you don't want to.
With all my heart, my lord, and thank you too. I will thank any man that gives me crowns.
Now will we consecrate our ready supper to honoured Hymen as his nuptial rite, in form whereof first dance, fair lords and ladies, and after sing. So we will sing and dance, and to the skies our virtuous joys advance.
And they all dance a measure, cut some shapes, and
now to the song, and do this garland grace.
Willow, 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 our captain goes down. Willow, 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 his valour doth crown. The rest with rosemary we grace. O Hymen, let thy light with richest rays gild every face, and feast hearts with delight. Willow, 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 we chant to the skies, and with black and yellow give courtship the prize.
And so, yes, concluding an evening of much musical entertainment with our captain going down. So after, I almost feel that that there's a moment here where we're getting a potentially alternative title, A Marriage Made for Virtue, or something like that. When Momford said that, I just went, that's the title that it might have originally had, and then everyone just focuses in on Sir Giles Goosecap because that was the part that the actor clearly made really, really exciting. And everyone gets married at the end for no good reason. No. It's like Momford just goes, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, you. There we are. Well done. And what do you win? Hang on, I'm just going to pull the ball out of the bag. Unlucky for some. 13. Penelope. There you go. It's just, yeah. It's like, this is how plays are supposed to end. Yeah. Almost. Lois.
Well, those were the guys who were courting them. I mean, as far as one could tell earlier, Rudesby was courting Hippolyta, and Goosecap was courting Penelope. But gosh, the poor girls. I mean,
yeah, I mean, at no point has anyone sort of gone, this is a good idea. Literally, not one person has seen that this is... I mean, to be fair, Momford hasn't been engaged in that side of the plot at all. So, as far as he's concerned, perhaps he maybe they just whisper to him afterwards going, we're not marrying them.
Yeah.
It's a bit awkward, isn't it? Tough. We're not doing it. Yeah. Lynn, did you wave?
Oh, yeah, but sort of echoing that, like, that's I am willing to believe that the marriage of Clarence and Eugenia will be satisfying. I think the actors could play that throughout that yeah, that's what's going to happen, and Eugenia that actor could signal in her performance that yeah, it's just a matter of time before she gives in, and Clarence is a good match for her. And I think there's a potential gag there. Like, I think Rob's idea is great. They come back from behind the curtain and their hair's all messed up, and her makeup's all smeared, and their clothes are like, we were just talking. And then when her uncle says, for pure virtue, they're like holding hands, and they kind of look at each other like, virtue is a factor. But the other two matches just like really seem extraneous. And another weird thing about this ending is the Willow song. The Willow was associated with lost love, with like being sad, right? So why Willow, Willow, Willow? I mean, we all know Willow, Willow, Willow.
Do we? No, I don't think we do.
Oh, okay, never mind. But yeah, the Willow the Willow is something that's associated with disappointed love or lost love.
Lois.
Well, you wear the willow garland if you're an unsuccessful suitor, and that's exactly what's happened to Captain Fowlweather, and that's why they give him one at the end. So, but it does seem rather odd to end the play by talking about that or singing about that.
It gives us an out, actually, because if that's what we expand it from Fowlweather, and actually the ladies give a garland to the other men and actually just push them out the door and say we're off, because it feels so inconsequential, these final betrothals at the end, that I feel we can happily reject them, and it doesn't leave a pall over the play in the way that some other marriages at the end of plays have done, where we're going, really? Whereas I don't feel there's anything at stake in this play. Does anyone really believe that any of this is happening? Lois.
I don't know. I'm just wondering whether you could somehow play it that Penelope thinks Sir Giles is actually charming, just what she always wanted in a husband. I mean, it might possibly work.
Maybe. I don't think it fits any of the dialogue that Penelope has had. I mean, Penelope and the other one have not Hippolyta have I don't think they've said a single nice thing about the men at all. I mean, they're just there to do put downs.
They've been making fun of them all the way through, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they just enjoy the idea that they'll have husbands that are so stupid they can run rings around them. I don't know.
Maybe there's never a dull moment. Alan, then Stephen.
Yeah, well, I think it was Hippolyta in yesterday's session. It was inquiring as to the means of her prospective suitor. And I was thinking, yeah, okay, fine, ka-ching.
That could be that aspect, yeah. Stephen, then Briony.
I was just wondering about that phrase, for merry form's sake. It does kind of sound, it's a sort of Lynn point, isn't it, about comedy that, we can't just have one marriage. The form demands we have to have as many marriages as possible. And if somebody is to be left out of it, and I don't know, perhaps we've got the best singer in the company who's left out of it or something. I don't see why we have so many characters. Just sort of tramping on and tramping off again. It's like the Ant Hill mob or something, but it's kind of like, okay, well, we can't actually marry everybody, but for merry form's sake, let's have it's like Rafe, Lord of the May sort of scenario, isn't it? It's kind of, we can't just have a dance. We've got to have a song. But they can't sing about, let's get somebody else to sing. And it's kind of like a joke about it. Do you know what I mean? So just that phrase, merry form's sake, it's like, well, we know the optimum ending for a comedy There's, singing, dancing, marriages aplenty. Let's try and kind of get everything into the last 3 minutes to make sure that people leave with a smile on their face.
And what's really interesting about this in terms of the central marriage plot is that what often happens in these plays is that at the end of the play, the then betrothed wife to be says nothing, and the bloke gets a massive speech. And here it's the other way around. I mean, Clarence only ever says the same lines as Eugenia at the end, and actually says nothing at all. And it's kind of go, oh, that's nice. Because frankly, if he opened his mouth, we'd be here for another half an hour. Briony.
Yeah, on the question of like how keen the women were for this, I don't know. The way I read Penelope's line personally was that she's kind of almost playing hard to get in a coy way, like, oh no, I haven't decided that he's great enough yet. I have heard that he's a really good poet too, and it's that, I don't know. I read that as like she's not giving her consent, but like at the start, the women were able to be quite rude with the banter to the guys about how they felt. So I don't know. That's just how I read that.
Stephen again.
Just a point Alan made in the chat about them being a boys' company. I think this is Paul's boys, isn't it? So if it is
Children of the Chapel Royal, I think.
Children of the Chapel Royal, we've got basically the best singers in the country in this company. So that's another reason to just kind of go, right, song.
Yeah, we haven't had that many song cues since, was it the second session? We had definitely had song cues or music cues between speeches of Clarence. We haven't had that really this third of the play, less than a third. Beyond what might be happening during intervals. So yeah, it does feel like a song at the end is long overdue for a big number. Maybe it's just this number happened to be quite popular that year, and they had to just find a way of throwing it in. It's not unknown. Okay. We've come to the end. And once again, I have to come to this point that I feel myself moderately happy and had enjoyed this, but I'm still struggling to grasp what it is. I mean, it is so much. There is so little actual content. It's all about business. There are jokes. There's a lot of potential for stuff to do during scenes, and I do think actually this is one I'd really enjoy workshopping and playing around with, and trying to find the funny. And also trying to find the analogues for the jokes that have died, because there are a lot of dead jokes in this where you can see that they're jokes, but the reference has gone. It's like that candlestick gag. I'm sure it was a funny gag, but it's nobody knows what it means anymore. And it's a pun that's sort of gone by the wayside. And there's a slightly higher quotient in this play for that kind of problem. There's a lot of Latin that needs tweaking or removing or glossing, but no, I'm not unhappy to have passed through. I would be happy to go again, and just it's an interesting challenge, this one, to draw on the funny and to draw on what feels a very intellectual theme actually going on here with Clarence about this whole marrying for the right reason. I just think it should be set up at the beginning of the play. That's the game that's going on with Clarence and Momford, is to marry for the right reason. And it may have been mentioned in that first scene, and I just missed it because it was a bit obtuse. Because that first Clarence and Momford scene was quite a step change. But it does help if the audience is rooting for that on some level. So otherwise, it feels a bit rootless. I still don't know where to put the interval, so there might not be one. Anyway, final thoughts around the room. I will go to Francis, who missed the middle of the play, but may or may not feel that was a problem.
No, it wasn't a problem. Well, I think, like I said at the end of the first session, I just don't really get this play. But I take what you said. There's bits of business in here. There's some jokes that maybe you could modernise. I was interested by something Stephen said earlier, and I'm wondering if this play was put in the hands of a good writer who could cut it down in a good direction, a great team of actors. This is the sort of play that I'd see actually perform, and the clouds would part and the sun would come out, and I'd think, wow, this is really good.
No, I think you're right. I mean, we've also come to the element this session that we now know that the Fool Gambit went nowhere. So we got an immediate cut from last session of just going, I'm sorry, but I've no idea what that was about, and it went nowhere. I was fully expecting that Sir Giles was going to end up being the fool, and there'd be a bit of business where you have to pretend to be funny, and it would actually be awful, and it would be cruel and miserable, and the play would have something like that. But literally, it went nowhere, and it annoys me because it wasn't the only good bit about it was the Will or Jack coming on and saying he's dead. And it was like, it was random. Lois, any final thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I've got Parrott's edition of Chapman's comedies, which is actually a very rare book. I've been trying for ages to buy it, and this is a library copy. And anyway, it has a very useful sort of introduction, which suggests that the reason that we never see anything of Lady Furnifall after having heard about her is that there was something about this that apparently offended people, and that Chapman therefore moved it to the Gentleman Usher, which is where several scenes from this play appear to have been transplanted. I almost wonder, I guess this thing was actually put on, but it seems that he cannibalized quite a bit of it and used it elsewhere in a rather better play. I mean, the letter writing scene turns up there as well. But it also suggests that we may be right. Other people have suggested, apparently, that some of these parts may have been caricatures of living people. So, well, for what that's worth, and people have also pointed out that it is very like, that it's obviously using Chaucer's Troilus and Crusade for the whole Momford-Eugenia relationship, and this way the sick bed scene and so on.
Yes, it is a shame that we did these plays this way round, because actually I think it would have been easier to identify bits of this in The Gentleman Usher than for us to remember bits that sort of came from this, because we have done The Gentleman Usher already, and the moment you reminded me, because it's in my notes to bring it up and I forgot all about it, but the moment you sort of say that, and go, oh yes, there are things. And Gentleman Usher, as I recall, is a tighter play. It's a much tighter. It's got a more tight now. It's still got a certain flappy edges, as I remember about it, but it was a much tighter beast. And so maybe Chapman's here before us of going, you know what, didn't quite work, did it? But we can reuse this bit. Let's give it more plot.
Yeah, well, that's my feeling about this play, that it's very like a lot of other humorous comedies, which are better. I mean, the same sort of thing. There's some sort of reasonably plausible love affair, plus some really silly ones, plus a gallery of idiots that are made to display themselves, and that's about it.
I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head also how well Humorous Day's Mirth went with The Room. I can't remember whether we sort of found it tedious or not. I genuinely can't remember, because that's a much more explicitly a humours play. This is sort of a slightly off humours play, because the humours aren't actually that important, because they clearly shift throughout the text what individual comedy beats are. So, yeah, because it's been slightly too long since we did Humorous Day's Mirth for me to distinguish it from any other humours play, which is also one of the problems of this particular genre, because they all do start blurring into one. Aliki, you were waving, but also final thoughts.
My final thoughts are very much like yours. I would certainly enjoy workshopping it. I'm slightly less confident that it will turn out to be a gem once we've inserted enough business, but we'll see. I was just thinking, I remember The Gentleman Usher quite well, and I remember the drunken noblewoman in it, and she was pretty funny. So it might have been a fun addition to this. It might have been fun to have her, if that is the case, if Chapman did recycle her.
Okay. That's Alan. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether we are looking at a situation of this being a play which has survived because it was an author who was fairly prolific. And had there been any moral justice, some of the other plays which we only know by title might have survived, and this might have pleasantly found some obscurity somewhere, given, as you said, an awful lot of the material seemed to end up getting recycled in a rather better form. I do sometimes wonder what the pressures were like in terms of the number of plays that were being produced, and whether on occasion we were getting stuff which was just being, oh God, it's due by Friday, right, well, that'll do, that'll keep the beggars quiet for a while, rather than actually being polished.
Well, I think it does speak to, I mean, assuming this is by Chapman, and we're fairly certain it is, of a writer's developing work, and and yes, maybe off days, and actually there's an acknowledgement of that this is a bit of an off day because it's cannibalized for a play it seems to be better and possibly more successful. So as a sort of survival of working practice, that not everything's a hit. The things ebb and flow. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but if he actually took bits out of this play, like Lady Furnifall, I mean, that means that the play is slightly incomplete anyway. That may explain why we occasionally have this feeling of, when did that happen, or who is this,
Yes, if Furnifall's wife is the character that turns up in Gentleman Usher, then that sort of maybe adds to all sorts of potential possibilities. I mean, it feels complete in of itself. I don't think anything's necessarily been removed from it. It's just that certain scenes are better and have been added, but maybe there's a humours play that there is the platonic ideal of a humours play that we could infer from all the humours plays out there, and we could construct that, and it would be the best and funniest thing ever. I don't know. Briony, any final thoughts?
Nothing to add, really.
Fair enough. Short, sweet, to the point. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I like your idea of let's play around with it. Let's workshop it a little. I think once you have talented, enthusiastic actors inhabiting those roles, it might surprise you. Its charm might bubble to the surface. And I do think it's really all about actors who are just hilarious and having fun. And so much so that the audience really can't resist getting swept up in the silliness. If you make Goosecap and Rudesby and Fowlweather just hilariously ridiculous, it might surprise you. You might be pleasantly surprised. But I think it does need the hand of a good dramaturg to cut it down. The whole makeup gag, that goes. The whole fool thing, that goes. And more surgical cuts throughout. And I would be inclined to not have the secondary marriages take place. That the point is we have two very intelligent people who value their intellect, but also are kind of hot for each other. And I think that could be a really satisfying ending.
Stephen, any final thoughts?
Not a huge amount to add. I like the kind of generosity of spirit of let's give it another go. And I wish during it we used to kind of have this little game, didn't we, where we kind of played fantasy portmanteau production, where we'd go, this scene out, but if this would go with that scene. And I wish I'd done that now, because I was kind of just feeling too snotty towards it all. So and I kind of agree with Lois, really. I kind of feel like it's like one of those kind of taxi rides from the airport to the hotel, and you kind of like think, wait a minute, it's taken me 3/4 of an hour and it's 2 miles. It's good kind of, I'm very glad I'm at the end and all, but it's taken forever to go not very far.
Sarah, any final thoughts?
My final thought is I have never ever read a play where I have literally had no clue what I was saying. Like, there were very, very few lines that I've had to say. I mean, bearing in mind I've played about 6 different characters, there were very few lines that I had to say in the entirety of this play where I actually knew what I was saying. It was just like, oh, open my mouth, blah, 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 blah. And that in itself is quite interesting, I think. And okay, so partly it's because, the jokes, maybe haven't translated to a contemporary audience, but I think there's just it's just more, it's in the writing. And I mean, I can only second what other people have said about, I think you need a very good director, dramaturge to cut through this and find a line through it and stick to it, and then a director who will work with very comic actors, but to the point where I can imagine this being done by a group of stand-up comedians almost, like not obviously sort of stand-up monologues, but like these scenes between Goosecap and Momford and Rudesby, it's just so absurd. You could turn it into a sort of quite crazy absurdist comedy. Or I mean, if you took it in the other direction, it's reminding me, in the UK, when I was growing up, there was a Saturday night game show called The Generation Game, where you used to have at the end, there would be this, they'd always put on a play with really hapless members of the public doing a play with comic actors, and the whole point of it was awful, and the hilarity would just build the more and more awful it became. And that kind of reminds me of this to a certain degree. It's like, okay, how rubbish can we actually make this? And actually, is that going to make it even funnier? Because clearly there are gags in there, but it's like that if you just cast aside the plot completely, maybe that would be the way to go with it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's been a very strange 3 sessions, because I've sort of enjoyed it, but I as has been said frequently, no idea what the hell is going on, and what line by line people are saying. It is Chapman at his most opaque in so far. There's still time. And but in comparison with the others, I say, if it is Chapman, or it might not be. In comparison with the confirmed Chapmans, it was a lot harder work to just understand what's going on moment by moment. Whereas even if we didn't like the other plays, and I can't remember precisely how well or badly we did or didn't, I think we did, generally speaking. At least we knew what was going on. Something of an issue. Lois.
Yeah, I always find Chapman really peculiar. I mean, there are lines that are quite splendid, and there are places where you can see that something quite important is supposedly being said, but you don't quite get it, or it's sort of on the edge of it. Even in the better known plays, I mean, there are passages that are quite often anthologized from the Bussy plays or the Briony plays, because they sound so splendid, about 5 really good lines. But then there's an awful lot of really turgid stuff. And he's also sometimes quite good at plotting. I mean, there's a bit of the plot of Eastward Ho, which is by him, that's very good, but it's generally because he's got a really good source, which was the case there and is the case here. I mean, the best bits of this seem to me to be coming from Chaucer, and who developed that whole theme very subtly and rather beautifully, I think, in the relation of Pandarus and Crusade.
Which is something of a shame, because all he got for his pains was a terrible pun about one of his works. I mean, that feels like Chaucer got the raw end of the stick there. It's like, we'll just gag about one of the boom boom. Well, we actually got a few minutes to spare. Anyone got any additional things they want to throw in? I think we've probably thrown this particular bone about the garden a fair amount, and it's probably time to bury it and move on. But Lois?
Well, you were talking about a kind of conflation of humorous plays. I was thinking it'd be rather fun to do the humorous play to end all humorous plays, where you you just get a basic skeleton structure, and then ways of working in all our favorite characters from all the plays we've read, and somehow finding a plot that uses them all.
Well, almost every Humours plays that we've done has had, sort of scenes that are just there to demonstrate the humours without actually engaging with the plot. So it is almost like you need a catwalk. And they strut down and they do their humour and then they strut off again. In fact, actually, I think one of the plays explicitly did that. There's and again we've talked about compilation shows where that kind of thing might be. There are some nice bits in here that might work in that, or might, even if it's just a few lines, then that might add to it. So, all that remains now is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you to them, our tortoise, and everybody else. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. As how, my strange and riddle-speaking friend?